Right. So, what I am intrigued from the room is, has anyone in here heard of the Music Venue Trust before?
Some people. Okay, good.
A few hands, but it's not the majority. So it's really good that you're here, I think.
Thanks for having me.
So this is Clara Cullen. She's come up from London today to speak to us, so I'm incredibly grateful. This is your first time in Norwich?
It is. What a fantastic city.
Yeah, you've had the afternoon here.
I've had a lovely time.
Yeah, wandering around the city, looking at all the old buildings. Fantastic.
No, I mean, it's not that far away.
No, it's not. It's only a couple of hours on the train, but we are the last stop, which we are very aware of. We are very aware of that. So the reason I wanted to invite the Music Venue Trust here today is because I've been following their work for about the past 3 years and things that they've been doing on a national level to help small grassroots music venues. I've known for a long time that I wanted to be involved in live music, put on my own gigs and promote events and that sort of thing. And so I kind of thought I should probably keep track of the work that you were doing, which I have. Yeah, if you just want to sort of start by giving them some brief background about what the Music Venue Trust is, what the work that you do is.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for putting on this evening. It's fantastic.
No
so
problem.
round of applause for Megan. I'm going to just give a brief overview of what we do at the charity, and then I'm quite keen to go to the actual audience participation bit because I think that might be the most useful thing. So Music Venue Trust was founded in 2014. Our mission is to secure, protect and improve the grassroots music venue network around the UK. We are a national charity. We work across the entire UK. At Music Venue Trust, we all, unsurprisingly, believe that venues play a vital role in the cultural and economic vibrancy of towns up and down the country. Grassroots music venues act as key incubators to tomorrow's biggest acts, and they're where artists, as well as promoters, get to kind of hone their skills and their first entry points into the industry. At the moment, we have a network called the Music Venues Alliance. It's sort of our industry body. And we have over 470 grassroots music venues who are members of that. I'm sort of on a mission, actually, today.
Yeah, because apparently there aren't many venues in Norwich.
There are not many in Norwich, and I'm here to convert everyone and make sure that I don't leave until all the grassroots music venues here in Norwich are a member of the Music Venues Alliance.
And what does being a part of the Music Venues Alliance mean for venues?
So, first of all, it's a way that we can take these sort of discussions from a local level and kind of transmit them up to a national level. I think what you do is, like, here is fantastic, but I think being realistic, there are limits to what you can do at a local level.
Absolutely.
And so trying to figure out how we can take this sort of collective level of the industry and kind of transmit it up onto kind of policy level at a national level is really important. And so one of the ways we do that is having this industry body, and now we have about 475 members. So we're the biggest industry body in terms of grassroots music venues in Europe. So, and it really does help that you have a kind of big kind of power in numbers. But also becoming a member of the membership, Music Venues Alliance, you get access to our emergency response service, which if you're a venue in crisis, you can fill out the form on our website and say you have issues with noise complaints or your business rates, anything like that, get in touch with us there. We then kind of review the case. We put you in touch with our team, amazing team of legal kind of heroes, basically, who can then help fight your case. And that's all through the Music Venue Trust and being part of that Music Venues Alliance. And so finding sort of solidarity and also I think finding, I think running a music venue can be quite an isolating experience, actually, and you sort of think, oh, I'm kind of on my own in these problems, but actually being part of a larger network, you can kind of realise that a lot of people are going through the same issues and
that's interesting, because I think that's certainly one of the things that I was trying to achieve with setting up the forum. It was about building a network, primarily. So is it just venues that can apply to be part of the alliance, or is it people that work in venues on a sort of smaller level?
It's primarily venues. I mean, it can be anyone who works within the venue can apply to be a member on behalf of that venue. And we do have a few of the bigger venues around the country who are members as well, kind of venues like the Roundhouse, who obviously wouldn't be a grassroots music venue, but they want to kind of support what we do and the work we do, and so they also want to kind of be a part of it. So.
And that emergency response service, is that free at the point of
Yes,
access?
it's free at the point of access. Basically, you fill in the form, and then one of our legal team will have a look at the actual case. At the point when, or if it needs to be then taken further, there are legal costs, but then we kind of have to cover it and all that sort of stuff. So it's basically our first kind of port of kind of contact, really. And last year, I think we dealt with 46 cases. This year, we're already on 56. It looks like we're going to get to about 70 by the end of the year.
That's quite a terrifying figure.
Yeah,
I mean, this comes in the context of what we've experienced in Norwich in the last year, and you're obviously aware of what we've had with the Owl Sanctuary. It's fantastic that has now reopened and that live music is still happening in that venue. But it's still... Are we able to get a microphone to, like...
Sorry, it just seemed like the time to interrupt you. I actually am the one that I took over the Owl Sanctuary and put in Bermuda Bob's. We're going to do live music. And my first night being open, I instantly got a noise complaint from the bar across the street, which is a bit funny. I found the Music Venue Trust. I sent an email, and within the next day, one of your lawyers contacted me. This is just last week.
Cool.
And he proceeded to let me know that the venue complaining across the street did not have planning permission to live above the venue whatsoever, which got them to shut the fuck up.
So it does work.
That's interesting, but it just goes to show how quick that response is, that is a really useful service, and it's already being used in Norwich.
We are inundated, essentially, is the truth of the matter. There are 4 people who work at the charity, 1 person who works full-time, everyone else is part-time. And so if you are a venue and you want to get in touch with us, please do fill out the emergency response form. It's the way that our team of lawyers need to get that information. It's very difficult to kind of gather that information. So if you can just put it in the emergency response form in one place, that's the best way of kind of contacting us about any crisis that you might be in.
Brilliant. And so your aim is to support small grassroots music venues. So what sort of venues fall into that category?
So on our website, we do have a kind of general definition of a grassroots music venue. But essentially, one of the really important factors is, in your local community, do people think of it as a grassroots music venue? Do they think of it as a place to go and watch live music? And that is actually, we didn't want it to be too academic we wanted it actually, what does the local community think of this kind of venue or this place? And if they think of it as a place to go see live music and it's sort of under 500 cap, then we'll be like, cool, that's a grassroots music venue. So it doesn't have to just be a music venue. It can be a pub that also focuses on live music.
Yeah, I think definitely
like
the Brickmakers falls into that category. And I know that I think some of your team did contact them, and has been some contact there as well, so that's really useful. And obviously we're getting some updates from them. I'm not going to say too much. I know Em is in the back, and so I know that they've had some word from EI. It's still a little bit iffy in terms of the legal stuff. Is that right? It's in the hands of the legal team. Incredibly secure hands. Okay. But hopefully they'll be meeting them halfway.
Yeah, and what we
found,
so earlier in the year, we did a series of 7 regional meetings with our Music Venue Alliance members all across the country, and we had loads of discussions about PRS, which if anyone runs a venue kind of knows how difficult that is to sort of negotiate. We had loads of talks about licensing and all this kind of stuff. And what we sort of found from doing these 7 meetings is that there's a lot of issues that kind of are national, and people sort of get quite insular, and they sort of think, oh, I'm the only venue that is going through this. But actually, having gone to all of these 7 regional meetings, you realise that a lot of venues are going through similar stuff, which is why I would love all the venues here to join the Music Venues Alliance.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of going to be one of my questions. So obviously you've achieved a lot, particularly with the Agent of Change bill, that now means that it's not the responsibility of the venues to put in soundproofing when what were offices above their venue get turned into flats or something like that.
Agent of change, the principle is really easy to kind of understand. Basically, the person who is the agent of change in the area is responsible for mitigating the sound. So if a developer moves in to an area where there is a pre-existing music venue, nightclub, whatever, it's their responsibility to soundproof their new development. It isn't actually legislation, unfortunately. It's policy, but it's basically the best that we can achieve at this point in time. So it's definitely better than nothing.
It's certainly a pretty big first step.
Yeah, it's basically, it was the biggest win that we've had. It took us 4 years of lobbying to get that in, and so it was very nice when it finally happened.
Brilliant. So as a music community in Norwich, what would you say is the best way that we can contribute to the work that you do as a charity?
It would be great just to have to build networks and to build relationships. I don't know how many venues here went to our Venues Day. As you can see on the screen there, that's basically our big networking conference, similar to this, where all of our 470 venues come together. They hear about talks on kind of things that are important to them. This year we had lots on kind of good practice within the industry or bad practice and how to sort of change it. We had PRS who were there to give a talk and kind of meet with the venues for the first time, which was an interesting experience. But it's kind of...
I know PRS are actually coming to Norwich Arts Centre to do a talk, but it's more, I think... I looked at the event earlier, but it's more about getting your music into films and things. So they are doing some talks locally. That's happening at Norwich Arts Centre fairly soon.
And we had a bit where new venues can meet with agents. So we had all the big 8 agencies, Coda and everyone was there to basically kind of see if we can get new bookings into venues and things. So that's our big networking event that all of our Music Venue Alliance members get free tickets to go to. And there's travel bursaries, so there's really no reason not to come. It's great. It takes months of planning, so it's great when it kind of sells out and everyone comes, and it's lovely.
Can anyone else, so obviously if you have to, can people, members of the public, just people who like going to gigs, people who are musicians and promoters, can they come to Venues Day as well?
Yes, they can. There's options that we have. So all of the Music Venue Alliance members get free tickets. Then there's options for like discounted tickets for students and also sort of like industry bodies or just the general public, and you know if they want to come as well.
Fantastic. So one thing I did want to go on to, because last year I took part in the UK Music Census, which was pretty much the first thing that had ever come in that sort of area, where they actually sort of, it was over like a 24-hour period, they went out and did a census of live music, like they would with the census that happens every 10 years, to actually figure out, and it was venues contributed, promoters contributed, and gig goers, all talking about, you know, what the barriers are to them going out to live music, which is a big topic of tonight. So of the 3 cities that were sort of the main focus in the report, Glasgow, Newcastle, and Oxford, in all 3 cases, the main barrier that they felt was an increasingly competitive environment between venues and promoters. Do you get the impression that this is the case across most of the cities that you've been working with? And does it indicate that the music offering in cities outweighs the demand for it?
I mean, I think anyone who is a kind of avid gig goer, there's never been a better time to go to see live music. I mean, the scene, particularly here, is incredibly strong. And so actually, the choice, there's loads to go to. And I think talking to venues, what we often find is it's not that they have a lack of choice of what they want to put on. It's more that they want to kind of improve the experience for gig goers, you know. And so when they go to, I'm just trying to think of off the top of my, Sneaky Pete's in Edinburgh or something, to actually go and, enjoy the actual experience of going to the venue as much as the actual kind of music as well. And so I do think, the scene around the UK, there are pockets of it that are really, really healthy. And so... particularly here in Norwich, also with a university here as well. Kind of, that's an interesting one. I think competition is, it's very strong at the moment, so it's difficult to.
And it's just sort of looking at how.
And I think what Danielle was saying in the earlier panel, having something that kind of draws people to the event, which is kind of a little bit unusual or interesting, or kind of something that just kind of pops up. You're like, if you're not someone who goes to gigs a lot, that might kind of interest you in going,
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, I know just even last night, a Monday night in Norwich, I went to a gig at the Waterfront Studio for an EP release of Glad Boy, who are a local band who've sort of come out of UEA and are doing really well. They've built up a really strong following over the last year. They had a mixture of local support and support from further afield. They had a band come up from York. But at the same time, you had at Norwich Arts Centre, Goat Girl, who just
Great,
won a
they're
Q
massive,
award.
Yeah, absolutely.
But actually, still, the Waterfront Studio was packed of the sort of crowd that probably would also be interested in the Goat Girl.
As well.
So
yeah, there's kind
it's
of
good that there is, as long as it's pitched right, I think that there is still...
and I think often when you have healthy scenes like that, you know, it's bands helping out bands. I mean, everyone, particularly in Norwich or anywhere, you know, South East London or Kingston or whatever, everyone knows each other in the scene. And so it's actually kind of like, you know, if you go on a tour and you kind of help your friend out on the tour, then it kind of all comes back. And
yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing that bands can do is just sort of that communication. And that's often the thing that can be lacking, sort of a lack of communication between what the promoter expects and what the band expects and what the venue expects.
yeah. So at Venues Day this year, we had a really interesting panel on riders, actually, because I didn't think this was going to be a big issue, and it turned out to be a huge issue for venues anyway, about what should they expect as a kind of standard rider, and should our expectations of a rider change, and if so, how do we get that change to happen in terms of working practice? And so I think next year we're also having, you know, we've kind of clocked onto this kind of promoter venue kind of thing, and we're going to try and get more promoters and venues in the same room to chat about these things.
Brilliant. Well, I think that's probably a good point to sort of bring questions out to the audience. So if we... Yep, let's put this one over here.
Hi there. So I had a bit of a question, like, because I'm a UEA student, to work in the SU, etc. There's a bit of a bar in the SU, and the fact that they would really love like students to be able to like promote themselves. There's a bit of an issue in the fact that there might be somewhat a lack of that kind of capacity for students to be able to promote themselves on campus. Would you say that like there's a lot of potential for like UEAs to go outside of just the LCR and propaganda, if there was a freer allowing of promotion on campus?
I think you're probably...
Yeah, I mean, this is... I've just graduated from UEA, and having been part of UEA Live Music Society, trying to promote gigs on campus, it's possible. It's just a very lengthy process to try and get posters up on campus. A lot of the time, they're taken down if they're in the wrong place. You leave flyers out on tables and they get taken away. I think it definitely needs to be a wider discussion with the student union there, because, yeah, I think there ought to be... This is entirely personal opinion, and I think one of the next steps for the forum is sort of opening that discussion up with the student union, and sort of saying, can we get more? I mean, and in the city in general, I'm hopefully going to be going and talking to the council more after this meeting about how we can get more poster boards up, because, yeah, I mean, even organising, I helped organise the Zigzag Festival that happens at UEA. It's been happening for the last couple of years, and we really struggled to get support from the student union with that, and it was an entirely student-led event for every single creative society at UEA, and marketing it was a nightmare because social media only goes so far. But that's definitely something we're working towards. All right, any more questions? Preferably music. Yep.
Hello, how you doing?
Very well, thanks.
Who's going? Is it?
Yeah,
We're doing a double act. We can if you like. I don't mind. It's all right.
Go ahead.
Hi, Clara. I just wondered if you were able to say anything about. You talked earlier about the importance of grassroots music venues in terms of how they are effectively the R&D and incubation spaces that then produce the talent that effectively props up the £4 billion a year music industry. I wonder if you were able to say anything about the recent dialogue with government, particularly the DCMS live inquiry, and how you think that might, you know, from MVT's point of view, pan out in terms of the future for live music, either, you know, both regionally and nationally.
Adrian, it's like you're a mole. I planted you in the audience. So we responded to the DCMS live music inquiry. I have a response here. And Mark, our CEO, was there in Parliament giving evidence to that. Interestingly, we've sort of come to a conclusion as an organisation that we want to move our focus more towards the live music industry and what they can actually do to support the grassroots music venues. We basically think they should be doing more, and we definitely know that they have the money to do so. This is a £4.4 billion industry, and so we just kind of don't think it's really good enough that they don't invest in their kind of grassroots level. And we basically come up with, well, I say we've come up with this idea, but there's an idea called the Pipeline Investment Fund, which is already being done in most of Europe. And basically the idea would be to create a fund at kind of arena level, you pay when you go and kind of book a ticket at an arena level. You're already paying something like £3.50 to print the thing. Some of it goes to a facility charge. We basically think that 50p or whatever should go to a fund at which grassroots music venues can then withdraw from the fund if they need to kind of invest in their infrastructure or sort of anything like that. And that's sort of where we sort of see our next move and what we're going to try and campaign. It would be great if government kind of could get behind it. We don't think it's necessarily they have to. I think the music industry can do it itself. I think it has the means to do it. It's just trying to sort of get them to actually sign up, and we've had some very promising chats with a lot of the different sections of the industry. We're just kind of fed up with, no music venue should close because it lacks £2,000 in legal fees. It just shouldn't happen. And so we're kind of thinking, how can we move towards a model which is similar to what they do in Europe already? And
I was going to say, because certainly if there are any musicians in the room who have toured around Europe, if you could give some figures about sort of like the funding for live music in small venues across Europe. I know you mentioned to me earlier sort of France was one of them.
So this was from our response to the DCMS. Across the EU, governments have provided a variety of mechanisms to subsidise and underwrite investment into grassroots music venues, resulting in the average subsidy of 42% of total turnover and as high as 70% in France. These initiatives have resulted in exceptional facilities in many of our neighbouring territories, with greater performance fees to artists, higher employment levels, greater number of apprenticeships and training opportunities being just some of the outcomes. And so we sort of feel the Pipeline Investment Fund could be a way for us to mimic some of what they're doing in Europe.
Because what's the funding level for grassroots? Is it like 0.7?
0.7 at the moment. So it's very low.
That's quite a difference.
But I think also,
Europe.
it's a way that the industry can sort of rectify itself, really. And I think, in some ways, whenever you book at an arena, £1.50 or something is already going to a facility charge to upkeep that arena. So I feel like we should just be doing that for grassroots music venues as well.
That does seem very logical.
And if you're already paying £50 to go see Madonna or Ed Sheeran or whatever, and you're paying £3.50 of that in kind of outside ticket charges, why not send some of that to an investment fund where grassroots music venues can kind of pull out that fund and actually reinvest in their actual infrastructure? Because it's not a joke, some of these venues are genuinely falling apart.
Yes, I've been in a few across the country that could do with a bit of TLC. Okay, I think we're going to have to call it for questions for now. Sadly, Clara needs to get back to London tonight. So if you want to catch Clara and have a chat with her, the time to do so is now.
All of the kind of general information about Music Venue Trust can be found on our website. Please do, if you're a Norwich venue, join the Music Venues Alliance. There is strength in numbers, and it really helps us when we are lobbying government at a national level on your behalf.
And you can access that by the Facebook.
Access it by
the website. There's also
or
a
get in
Facebook
touch
group
with us, or my email, clara@musicvenuetrust.com.
Brilliant. And it hopefully we'll post up after the meeting as well, any contact details, so that you can send further questions on, that sort of thing. But the time is now if you do want to have a chat to Clara. But we're going to have to have another 5-minute break, and then we will be coming back for our next panel, which is about accessing
before
live
I go,
music.
can I take a photo of everyone, just because it's really cool? And I also run the social media for the charity, so you've got to do a bit of everything.